Heyo Luckies, welcome back to the Luck Management Podcast. On this next installment of the Luck Management Lifestyle, we have on a friend, a mentor, a man that has been in media for 30 years, from CNBC to Bloomberg, to moving his media experience all the way into the forefront of working at PwC, and now has his own company, Castle Sand Consulting. Ed Caldwell, a friend of mine that I met in chance opportunity, on luck, we came together, and now we are such great friends. This is a two-part episode because we couldn't stop talking, and the stories and the things that he talks about are out of this world, from what the world looked like with Michael Jackson back in the day, to how you have to have that work-life balance, or the work-life blend, he likes to call it. We get into the hardships of life and building out your relationships, and how relationships should always be coming together and growing each other as one. He is a great fun to talk to. He's got so many cool stories. I think that people will look back on this episode and absolutely love the content that comes out of it. So I thoroughly enjoyed his time, and he also wants to be a mentor to anybody of the Notre Dame community. So do not hesitate to reach out, connect with him, learn from him, because he has knowledge that will go beyond your own years. So please enjoy this episode, and as always, we are brought to you by Charm ND. So let's go. Ayo, welcome back to the Luck Management Podcast. I am your host, Carter Loesch, and today is December 2nd, 2024. We've entered into the month of December. It's Christmas time everywhere. No matter where you are, there's decorations everywhere. But today I have the distinct pleasure of having on a friend, a mentor, a Notre Dame grad, 1979, a communications consultant, a man that's been throughout many different media partnerships with Bloomberg. He's also worked with PwC, and he actually is the president of Castle Sand Consulting. Ed Caldwell, welcome to the Luck Management Podcast. Thank you for coming on.
Well, Carter, what a pleasure to join you today. This is great. And as I was thinking before we went on, even though I spent a lot of my years in broadcast, I hadn't done a podcast before. So this is a brand new ground I'm covering here. So I'm delighted to be doing it with you.
New adventures, and you know what? That's what this Notre Dame connection is all about. Being able to come together from 2023 grad to 1979 grad. Notre Dame runs deep.
Absolutely.
So first off, just thank you so much for coming on to the episode. And the first thing that we like to do is just talk a little bit about the idea of what luck management is. I know we've had a couple calls previously. We've talked about my podcast, but the idea is that luck management is the hard work that brings you luck. So when you're capitalizing on opportunities, you can foster a growth mindset for success. So by being adaptable, prepared, you will in turn be lucky. And so I want to just open it up to you on your thoughts on luck.
Wow, you really put it well. What was that line from when you were talking just a moment ago? I was thinking of that line from Titanic. Remember the movie, which I think Jack said, something about making his own luck, that we work hard and create our own luck. And I think you really nailed it with that. There's something to be said for it. You do work hard. You study hard, you talk to the right people, you get in the right place, but not everybody gets to that level on the mountain that they want to be at. And that's where luck comes in, just meeting the right people and everything. Doesn't mean, if you don't have that stroke of luck, it doesn't take away from your accomplishments or who you are as a person. It just means that this wasn't the opportunity that was going to happen for you. But really successful people are able to leverage it and be able to say, okay, now here's what I have to work with. Now, what do I do with that? And where do I go with it? And who do I need to meet? And how do I build on that? And that's where a luck all comes in.
And all in culmination, I've tried to create this idea and identity of the luck management lifestyle. I'm reading a book right now, actually, called The Happiness Advantage, if you've ever heard of it. It's something about where everyone thinks that if you are getting the right job, then you will be happy, or you get the grade, then you'll be happy. But it's a complete flip on the other side, being like, if you work on yourself, if you take care of you, if you are putting in the hard work and you're putting in the time and the hours, then life and work will end up making you happier. Like, you have to make yourself happy first before that world happens.
That's a
And
great idea.
yeah, right. And one of the pieces that they talk about is that you can actually make yourself more lucky by your thoughts, yes, your actions, but even just believing that you're lucky, good breaks start to happen, good moments begin.
Well, a couple of points there. First, when you are selling something, the first person you have to sell to is yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first rule. You have to be convinced, I believe in what I'm doing. I'm behind it 100%. Because if you're not convinced, that's going to come across in your conversations.
Yes.
But you raised something else, and I want to touch on this. The late spiritual writer Henry Nouwen had a great discussion. He talks about in his book Out of Solitude. He talked about how we've all been to the big dinner. That big dinner where they introduce the speaker and they go on and on and on about you accomplish this, you accomplish that.
Right.
So many people get caught up in this idea that success is dependent on those accomplishments, that their whole idea of who they are, their whole self-esteem is caught up on those accomplishments that they've achieved. And his point is, you're not great because of those accomplishments. And trust me, having been around for a while, I've known a lot of people who are accomplished who are not necessarily great people. But the point is that you're not great because of those accomplishments. You're not a great person because you did this. You're not a great person because you did that. Your greatness is born of the fact that you're a gift from a loving God to your family and your friends. So let's start with that, because a lot of careers, not Nouwen made this point, a lot of careers exploded because it's an unending competition with ourselves that we can't win. We can't keep getting better than our last achievement.
There is a constant look, especially in American society, that you always need to be getting better. You always need to go from this level to the next level to the next level. And that people look at the stock market, or they look at that, it's like everything should always be going up. No, there's a lot of work that you have to do going up and down. But to your point right there too, in American society, there's also this level of like, if you achieve things, that means you're better. But you mentioned God and stuff too. It's at this level of being like, hey, actually, if you don't have, there's not a scoreboard at the end of the day. You can just be what you want to be at the end of the day. I find that to be very interesting.
What it comes down to is this. You ever pick up the paper and read, well, who picks up a paper these days, first off? But you pick up a paper and you read the obituaries. I guarantee you will not come across an obituary that says this guy had a 4-bedroom house with 5 bathrooms. Right. They don't care what you achieve. They don't care what you do. No, you can't. Number one, it's not about how big the house is. They don't usually say you had 14 automobiles. What they focus on is what you did for others.
Hmm.
The point's been made before. There are, 400,000 words in the English language. If you were to boil them down to the most important word, I think the most important word you can come up with is others. If you approach your work, you approach your life in service to others, I think you're going to do very well.
Yes.
And how you do very well. It may not equate necessarily all the time to money and getting more stuff, but it will relate very much to your happiness. I think this week even Pope Francis had made a point about others. The sun doesn't need its own warmth; the sun shines for others. Trees don't need to shade themselves; they grow leaves and shade for you. Flowers, their fragrance isn't for
Wow.
the flower; it's for others. And if we take that approach in our life and in our work, and I mean that no matter what you do, if you take that approach, it's for others, all the way down to, we put together a resume and we list, I have this title and I do that. Okay. What did that mean? What did you do for others? What impact on the lives of others or the lives of this company? What exactly did that translate into? Think of your work not as a noun or a title, but as a verb. I did this. When I was
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
when I was in financial news, I said I demystified arcane financial information for people that have money on the table. I didn't say I was the executive producer of this or that. Does that make
Hmm.
sense?
100%. I think sometimes, yeah, people get caught up in the title, but it's that service leadership, it's that acting for someone else, and I think you feel it too. The times where you are giving or you take a moment to just help somebody, it it makes you feel good. It makes the world go round in a way. And I think there needs to be more of it in society.
And I'll tell you, you nailed it when you said, it's about giving. It's also about being a good recipient. In this country, we're always about, you got to give more, got to give more. But we also have to have the courage to say, I need your help. I need help. It's very hard for us to say that because
It is hard.
we're supposed to be like strong and all about I can do this on my own. We can't. Everything in life is collaborative. So having the ability to be a good recipient means a lot. And being open to ideas, being open to feedback, open to criticism, open to failure, all of that. Let me receive that and grow and go from it. And I can do
Hmm.
much better.
Personally, on that point, I actually go to therapy, and I think it's one of the most beautiful things in the world. Some people have the ability to do therapy. I think it's fantastic because you're able to talk and you're able to level set, but you're also able to receive advice from somebody that, yes, you've built a relationship with, but somebody that's a little bit more impartial, and it helps you become a better person so that you can give more. So I highlight and see that as well.
Well, that's what I love about mentoring as well. When I sit down with young people such as yourself, I'm able to, more often than not, I like to listen
Yep.
because it's a little like it being in a therapy session. People walk away and say, boy, that therapist was great. Chances are that therapist was a great active listener.
He probably didn't
And
say anything. Yeah.
and he may not have done anything, or she may not have said a word, but you walk away going, boy, you solved all the problems of the world. Well, you did that. This person gave you the ability to elaborate, to articulate what the issue at hand is. And then in being able to do that, you're thinking more clearly and you can see your way toward a solution.
Yeah. So just a little bit of background for all the luckies out there. I call them the luckies on the Luck Management podcast. Of how we met. So we got connected through Irish Compass, and we've had a series of different calls. There was a time where I was looking for a new job and a new position and trying to find uh, a little bit more of a harmony in what I want to do. And you reached out to me, and ever since we've been good friends, and you've been
We
a
have been.
great mentor to me.
It's
And
been fun.
I
And
am so thankful.
I want to encourage other people to take advantage of Irish Compass. It's a great idea. If you're not familiar with it, in short,
Please.
it's like a LinkedIn, for ND people. But it's interesting too. You think, oh, what could I offer this person? You know, and I think in our first conversation, there was an honesty there. I said, I'm not exactly in your line of work, but let's just chat. Let's get to know each other.
Yep.
And I'm really grateful. It's turned into a great friendship.
It's matriculated into something amazing. And on your point on Irish Compass, it's like LinkedIn with your favorite people. You get through all the BS of all the different posts from random people.
Well, one other thing is that there's a built-in trust there.
Yep.
When you're on Irish Compass, you know that you're dealing with people from the university or associated with the university, and there's that recognition. Okay, they're here. I'm from Notre Dame. They're from Notre Dame. I can really trust this person. Whereas, if you're going out there in the internet, who knows who you may find.
You never know what you're going to get
No,
with the
you
internet.
don't.
Awesome. So let's get into some highs of the week. What this week stood out to you, and even just speaking about your Thanksgiving, how was it?
Thanksgiving was great. I've got my wife and I have two sons. One is an actor in New York, and the other is in sales and marketing here in New Jersey, and so we got to see all of them. The real highlight of the week. This is cool. Our older son and his wife are expecting their first child, our first grandchild. So I'm really juiced about that.
Oh my gosh! Wow. When?
So I'm going to be a grandpa. Oh my God, is that kid in for it? But here's the deal: anybody who's lived out here knows rents are crazy. I don't know how people coming up, deal with it. And they
Yep.
were living in Jersey City, and building after building, people were getting notices. It's like rent's going up 20 to 50%. And we
It's
heard
crazy.
this, and we sat down with our son and daughter-in-law and said, this is nuts. So here we are in this house, and we said, why don't you come and live with us? You know how you're always thinking of mom and dad trying to get you out of the house, get out of mom's basement? We're trying to get them to come back in. So this week they moved back in.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
It's interesting. One, it's great, from their standpoint, very practical, and it's great for me to have the extra set of hands, but it's also an interesting experience. Now we have 4 adults living under the same roof. How are we doing?
Yeah.
And it's been a joy because we all kind of do our thing during the day, but then in the evening, we all come together over dinner and we talk about the cares and the worries of the day and what's going on in the world. We have wonderful conversations, but it gives them a chance on a practical level. It gives them a chance to start really hyper saving toward buying their own house eventually. So that was my big one for the week.
Well, that's fantastic. Like I'm very happy, but that's something that I've come to see too. As I've grown older, you go to college and you want to go. You want to spread out. You want to
Sure.
go explore the world. You want to check out every city. You want to try every food and cuisine. But as you get older, something that I've definitely learned, and I'm building my world of wisdom, but I have seen that my parents have become my close friends. Less so of trying to be like, hey, you can't do this, you gotta go do that. No, I get to talk with them every day and learn about them and learn about their mistakes, learn about their triumphs, and come together with them. And as I've grown older and as my parents have grown older, I have that eventual want and need to get closer to them. I'm in Houston right now, they're in Charlotte. But I've come to see.
Ayo, Luckies. This episode of the Luck Management Podcast is brought to you by Charm ND. Love the Charm ND. Charm ND is one of my greatest passions, and it is the side business that fuels the Luck Management Podcast, but also just fuels me internally. When I went to Notre Dame, I loved every moment, but I wanted to have a way of holding more than just a t-shirt or a sweatshirt from Notre Dame. Yes, I got my diploma, thank God, go Irish. But at the same point, I wanted to create something with that you could have keychains, you could have necklaces, you could have earrings. And so what I did is I went all around campus. I worked with the marketing team at Mendoza. I worked with the Idea Lab and the Innovation Center, working tirelessly to figure out what would be a great thing for students and people like that love Notre Dame to hold that piece of Notre Dame. And so I came up with Charm ND, and we really have grown and expanded. And I always say really, but I'm the person who has the business. But we just got into the McCloskey venture, so hopefully going to be expanding. But at the same time, we are getting into this Christmas time. So if you need to get any pieces, check out my shop at Etsy. It's Charm ND Shop, or go on Instagram where it's charm_ND. I truly love this. It fuels the podcast. It is amazing. I'm always building out new pieces for people, and I just want to make sure that you guys all get to enjoy and love Notre Dame as much as I do. They're great stocking stuffers. They're great gifts to give to your dad, your mom. The earrings are some of the best sellers, where you send them and you give them to your loved one, your girlfriend, what have you. But just be ready and get some gear from Charm ND. So go Irish and go Charm ND.
That is my eventual goal, is sticking by the family and having that, because you have those conversations, you have those family dinners, you have those beautiful moments.
Well, I'll tell you, when I was a kid, my dad once told us, he said, your friends will come and go. He said, but your family's always going to be there. And
family is forever.
It is so painful when you hear or read about families that have been fractured, and it happens so often these days. But for families who recognize this, that we're always going to be there for one another. We are, going to look out for one another. We're going to talk to each other. That is so important, and
Yep.
and it's so important for young kids to see this, as they grow up, this encouragement, because that will beget change for the positive.
Mm-hmm. And I think indirectly, as much as this rent is crazy, that gives you guys an opportunity to be together. And other cultures, a lot of them do live at home together. And so there is a feeling that families are coming back a bit more.
Well, yeah, I laughed. Your listeners who were around in the 70s or could watch MeTV will remember the Waltons, and intergenerations of families all living under the same roof, and there's something to be said for that. Family history is very important to me. My kids, have grown up with stories about their grandparents and distant relatives that I had researched or kept them apprised of and everything. And I think that, it's just that important. And there's no time of year like this one, Thanksgiving and Christmas, that reminds us more of how valuable these people are to us. You talk about others in your life, start with them, start with your own family, and what they mean to you.
And some people, unfortunately, may not be as close with their family, but they've been able to build out their family. Your family can be your friends at the end of the day, if they are those types of people that fill in that role.
Well, exactly. Right? Our definition of family has evolved considerably through the years. But how you define family, having that core group together, that you're always going to be together, that they loved you yesterday, and when you failed, things didn't go right, you didn't make it to the top, you got fired, they're like, that's immaterial. We love you. Your greatness is born of the fact that you were a gift to us.
Well, I guess that leads into my high of the week. A couple months ago, I had decided and embarked on saying I was going to leave the position that I was in. I didn't feel that connection to the work. And you know what? My family was so supportive. They were, hey, we want to be here for you. We want to help you. let's figure out what we can do to get you in the best spot possible. And so there's a lot of support there. But this week, I actually started my new position at Kahuna Workforce, working in business development. And it already felt like I was stepping into a small family. It's a company called Kahuna, which means wise man in Hawaiian. And funny enough, there's about 50 people, but they always say, "Oh, welcome to the Kahuna Ohana," which means Kahuna family. And Ohana means hello, it means goodbye, it means family, it means pretty much everything in Hawaiian. And so being a part of that first week, meeting everybody, the 50 people that work there, coming together in a mission for moving forward, I'm really excited.
Wow, that is exciting for you. Congratulations on
Thank
that.
you.
And what a wonder and a joy to be able to work in an atmosphere that is going to help incubate your ideas and everything and help you to grow in a supportive environment.
Yep. Sometimes you have to figure out there are levels, and I'm sure you've seen this throughout your life, where you should continue to work hard or you got to push through that hardship. There was a moment there where I was like, you know what? I need something new. I need something different. And
Yeah.
it made itself very apparent to me, and I'm very happy and I'm blessed, honestly, to be in the situation I'm in now.
And by the way, you can find that nurturing environment, not just in small businesses, but here I work for, you had mentioned at the top, I worked for many years for PwC. I've
Hmm.
never worked for a company a firm that large. There were 50,000 employees across the United States, 5 times that around the world. Uh, but we created within our teams that kind of environment. Like
Hmm.
when somebody would join the team, I would sit down with them and we'd have a conversation, and I'd say, "You have my cell phone number?" And they go, "Well, yeah, I have my cell phone, your cell phone." I said, "Here's the deal." I said, "You wake up, as we all do, you wake up at 2:30 in the morning and
Mm.
and you're worried about something with work and it's really gnawing at you and you can't get back to sleep." I said, "Pick up the phone and call me right then and there.
Wow.
Just call me. I'll have well," I said, "better we should talk it out then." I said, "Because when you're here during the day, we need 100% of you. And if you're not getting your rest, you're not getting to recharge batteries, if you're, being consumed by these worries and fears, let's deal with that." My phone never rang, by the way. I never got the call. But I think just knowing that maybe Eddie was serious about that, I think goes a long way toward, helping people come together, feel open, and feel encouraged to say, "I need help." Like we were
Yep.
talking about a moment ago, I need help. Help me understand what I need to know.
Just to know that that resource is there and that you know that someone has your back, I think makes the biggest difference in the world. When there's a horizon being like, we believe in you, then you feel empowered to do whatever you need to do.
Well, that's why people quit companies, right? They don't quit the company. They quit managers because
Yep.
because oftentimes they feel like that that person doesn't have my back. She just doesn't like me. I can't trust her. I don't like him. He doesn't like me. He doesn't care about my growth. That's what causes people to leave. And yet if you have these opportunities to talk through, if you're able to develop if you're able to develop these sort of intentional relationships, even with your boss, your managers, then that can go a long way. And it not only helps you, but it helps the company you work for because they're going to get a better version of you.
Yep. It's the summation of a manager, and it's the summation of the people that work there. Everybody could have a title and you could be a VP of something, but if you're not working with people that you enjoy and care about, and I think it even falls back to what we were talking about earlier. Like, people will forget what you say, people will forget what you do, but people will
Okay.
never forget how you make them feel.
Yeah. And it's interesting when you're saying that. When I was with Bloomberg, nobody had titles.
Cool.
And that was an adjustment when I walked in the door. I said, "What do you mean we don't have titles? How
Yeah,
do
give
people
me
ever
my
know what you do?"
title.
And
Yeah.
they said, there was a reason for it, that nobody has a lock on all the good ideas, that it kind of levels the playing field a little bit. But nobody had a title. So they were not defined by that title. It was defined by what you did.
That's new age. I feel like that would anger so many people, but you'd have to buy in also.
Yeah, we had to use titles for outsiders, so they knew at least who they were dealing with.
Right.
Because if you just call and say, "I'm from Smithco," and they have no idea. But if you say, "Hey, I'm not this," then they go, "Okay, I got it."
Awesome. Well, let's move into the shout out of the week. Ed, was there anybody this week that you wanted to shout out that stood out for you?
Oh my gosh! Aside from you, sir, this was the
I'll
highlight
take it.
No, it's funny now that I'm retired. It's like, wow, I would give a shout out to the people that I used to work with, though, if I could, because
Yeah, go ahead.
it's interesting. I retired in August of 22, and even though I'm gone, my former managers and colleagues, I'm really gifted. I mean, they keep in touch. Not a week goes by that I don't hear from two or three of them. I just had lunch with my former boss yesterday, and that was at his invitation. And I thought, wow,
Awesome.
that's really cool to have that, have that kind of environment, because it's like, well, Ed's retired, what do we don't need to keep talking to him, but they do. And I'm really complimented by that. And I'm really jazzed by it. And it's just fun because it says our relationship extended beyond just simply, the work at hand, that we got along great. So I'd
Fantastic.
give them a big shout out.
All right, shout out. Sweet. My shout out of this week, I have to say Matthew Cornejo. He is a great friend from the Masters of Science and Management program that we were in together. And we caught up yesterday for about 45 minutes on the phone. He's based out of Chicago. And it's so funny. We start off the conversation always talking about hockey. It's always like 15 minutes of what's going on in the league. I'm a Rangers fan. He's a Canucks fan. They're both playing very well. And we just end up just talking about life and how he's doing. And he's had some struggles actually finding a job. And
Yeah.
the service aspect that you've talked about, I'm going to be working with him day in and day out, like helping with his LinkedIn a little bit more because he's not very on there. I told him about Irish Compass. I told him about, hey, send over your resume, because I have that experience. I have a few years of knowing how to formulate it a little bit better. So I'm going to be working with him, and it's one of those things that, like, you want to help your friends. It's my goal to help him get a job. Like, that's something amazing that I can help with.
During this Advent season, this is a period of reflection, much like Lent is, and that's a
Yep.
great thing to do, is to stop and say, "Hey, I may not be in that lady's field, but you know what? I have some universal skills that she's going to benefit from. I can help that guy with, his resume. I'm a good resume writer. I can help him with cover letter. I can do these things. I'll tell you, I'm the voice of experience on that. Lent rolled around one year, and I was always used to having to give something up, and I went, wait a minute, let's try something different here. I'm going to sit down and work with people who are in transition. I'm going to spend Lent working with people who need help with their resumes, with interviews, things like that. Well, it then turned into an avocation. I started doing that, and for me, that Lent just keeps rolling along. But yeah, everybody's got something to offer, so do it.
Two things on that. There's that level too of some people being like, "Oh, that billionaire only gave $1 million." It's like it doesn't matter. It's like you gave the charity. It's like people will take the money. People still have needs, and so to be able to give it, like no matter what, any amount of time that you're giving, it it means something. And
Yeah.
just because you're getting something out of it doesn't mean that you're not helping so many other people. So I just challenge everybody, yeah, enjoy the good feeling of being able to help and give back. Um, and then the second thing is that this is something a little bit more personal to me and him, is that we're both working on two things in our lives. Um, in his life, he wanted to work out more. He didn't feel like he was working out a lot. He didn't feel like he was keeping himself healthy. And so, and in my world, I have been working on like quitting nicotine. And so,
Okay.
what we've done together is being like, hey, if you're sticking to your workout schedule, then I'm sticking to giving up nicotine. And you know, when you have that group together and you're working together and you have something that you can bounce ideas off or talk struggles with, it's great. And so we've been doing that for the last month and a half, and I'm proud of where we are.
Wow, I'm proud of you too. That is a
Thank you.
really, really big and important decision to make. I gotta,
It's the hardest thing in the world. Yeah.
I gotta hand it to you for quitting smoking. I, I've always been an open book about it. I had lung surgery this
Oh my
year, and
goodness.
I have lung disease. Um, it is not smoking related, although I was a smoker right out of college. Um,
Yeah.
you know, you treat those lungs with tender and care, and kindness, because you'll appreciate it when you get a little bit older.
Yep.
You'll
Yep.
appreciate it
It's
now, but especially then.
yeah. So I just love that. It's like it's the Notre Dame friendships that continue on even after you leave school. It's like, you know, we're pushing each other to be better and stronger and for each other. So um, awesome. So the next part that I like to do is in the news, but I wanted to actually go do a different thing. So in the news of this week, and you may have an article, but um, in the news, I'm going to say this day in history.
Okay.
So in the news in 1983, Thriller came out for the first time on MTV. So I want to ask you about what did you even know it was on the radar when you were working when Thriller came out? Because people have told me it was like the biggest thing in the entire world.
Well, we had a copy. So there's that. Um,
Mm-hmm.
you're talking about, for the benefit of myself and others, you're talking about Michael Jackson, correct?
Yes, Michael
Yes.
Jackson.
Okay. But when that came
I should
out,
have
sure.
mentioned
I
that.
mean, it was a social phenomenon when it came out. He was. I
Okay.
mean, whatever he did, um, how do you put it? I mean, here was this pop icon uh, on a scale with, today's version would be Taylor Swift, and everything
Same
was tracked
level.
and
Would you say
say,
that was like the same level?
for that time, sure. You had, you stop
Yeah.
and think about, the pop icons over the years. You had Elvis, the Beatles,
Mm-hmm.
a couple of others, but then you had Michael Jackson, you had Taylor Swift, and then there were others along the way, and other very big, you know,
Huge. Yeah.
names. But in terms of, just this social phenomenon, I mean, you take somebody like Taylor Swift has an impact on economies when she goes into a city for her touring.
It's
And
amazing.
that Michael Jackson and that was pre-internet.
Yep.
That was just radio and TV. And, the impact that he had was amazing.
Yeah. Insane. And one other event I want to highlight too that happened on this day in history was in 2001, Enron filed for bankruptcy. And so I know that you were working for a lot of different
Yeah.
news media sites and news media productions.
Yeah.
What was the Enron bubble like being in that setting?
Wow, that takes you back a few years.
Yeah, 2001.
You stop and and that wasn't even, ultimately the only headline to come out of that year. I mean, the world blew
I
up.
thought the world was ending in
Yeah,
2000. Yeah.
yeah.
.com bubble and everything. Yeah.
But in terms of Enron, you stop and think, all right, this is where good journalism comes in. You stop and say, are they that good? Are they that real? And you have to, it's a reminder. You say your mother loves you, check it out. It's the old adage in journalism. And, in business news, you say this company is that great, check it out. And then you find out, wait a minute, there was a lot of work going on behind the scenes there that nobody, was aware of until it was
Mm-hmm.
too late.
It was
We saw that with Enron. We saw that with WorldCom eventually. And there were, heaven knows, you mentioned the .com bust at the time. How many companies, and that was the weird thing back then. Like with a lot of these companies, it's like, oh, but they're doing great. They're doing great. During the .com boom, it would be like, wait a minute, should we look at price earnings? And they're like, no, don't look at that ratio. Look at price to sales. And it was like, no, real companies actually make money.
they earned it. Yeah.
They earned it, not just, and so there was a lot going on back then.
Yeah, it's like that was the precursors to your whole Theranos and even in a world of crypto now, FTX and stuff like
Well,
these
there's a perfect
wild
example.
areas.
When I would talk to, let me put it this way. Let me tell you where crypto came. I taught confirmation for 20 years. And you knew the end was near when an 8th grade confirmation student comes and tells me he's putting his confirmation money into crypto. The kid's 13 years old, and you want to say, that's entirely unregulated. You get how that works? Is your mom
Yeah.
and dad, or your mom and dad? Oh, dad invested in it all the time, and I often think, oh man, I hope dad didn't lose his shirt because. At the end of the day, it was, it's kind of the Wild West out there.
Oh my gosh! If you ever saw a rocky road, or like if you ever wanted to just hop on a roller coaster, that's crypto.
Yeah, you definitely had to have an iron stomach there.
Yep. Well, I just wanted to do 2 moments in history of what the news was like 20 years ago and even 40 years ago. So that's crazy.
Well, I'll tell you one news item that struck me this week.
Yeah.
The passing of Mrs. Carter, former First Lady Rosalind Carter. When I was at Notre Dame, a group of us went over to the old Stephens Center and saw Jimmy Carter campaign there. And in fact, my good friend
Amazing.
with me was from Georgia, and we happened to be right down in front. And Governor Carter came over, and we were talking to him for a few moments. And my friend said, "Yeah, I'm from Georgia." And he said, "Can I hug you?" And he smiled real big. Jimmy Carter may not have been the ideal president.
Mm-hmm.
But he wrote the book on what former presidents should make of their lives. And the credit for that, time and again, goes to his wife. And her passing this week was such a sad chapter, but it was wonderful to see that she and Jimmy had such a long and fruitful life together. She did so much good for so many people.
I stand with anyone named Carter. So I'm a Carter stan. Every time that's happened, I've always thought that was amazing. Some people have asked me if I was named after President Carter. I was not, but I absolutely agree. Like, and it's funny. I wasn't alive during that time of him being president, but I watched the movie Miracle. Have you ever seen the movie
Mm.
Miracle? And some of his speeches and stuff that like motivated and fueled 1980, like right before we moved into, I guess, Reagan as president. Like that
Right.
was it was a hard time with the Iran conflicts and
I mean,
weird turmoil.
this is another topic for another show, but the our political history is such that we go from we tick-tock between one extreme to the other, or one philosophy to the other. We
Truly,
came off of the Kennedy Johnson years and went into Nixon. And we
yep,
came off Nixon and said, wow, we need to go in a new direction. We went with, in the direction of Jimmy Carter. There's a,
yep,
Southern Democrat. They
the
got done
peanut
with Jimmy
farmer. Yeah,
got done with Jimmy Carter, and they went off to Ronald Reagan and said, whoa, wait a minute, after Iran Contra, and they bring in, they brought in George Bush, but then eventually brought in,
yeah, for
uh,
only four though. Yeah,
but they brought in Clinton
Clinton.
along the way, and it went the same way. You go from Barack Obama to Donald Trump, and then back to President Biden.
It's the craziest thing. We've literally gone back and forth, and I think, I mean, I don't get into conspiracy theories too much, but I do think that it is just a way of having a level set because you can't be too far extreme on one side without having the other side come up and say, hey, okay, it's our turn now, too. It's been crazy how we literally just keep flipping presidents back and forth, um, which I guess speaks to democracy, though.
That's what it's all about. It's like, you don't like it, vote to change it.
Yep.
And the vote part is the critical part. You can't change it any other way.
It gives me a little bit of comfort knowing that all of America doesn't even know what it wants. Sometimes I sometimes can't make a decision. It's like, hey, look at America sometimes.
That's
That's
right.
funny.